start. Crisis. This is the dictionary meaning of crisis. It is a time of intense difficulty or danger, or a time when difficult or important decisions must be made. Now, I think this one, number 2, refers to us a lot more than what number 1 does, because it's about decision-making and finding that opportunity. Another interesting fact here, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of 2 characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity, which is actually said by John F. Kennedy. And 4 little dot points here, which we'll touch on now, and Jade, I'll start with you in a second, but excuse me. Number 1 is remain calm in the face of a crisis. Number 2 is look for the hidden opportunity in the worst of adversities. Number 3, leaders jump into the hotspot when those around them are struggling. And number 4, the clouds will lift. Keep them on your core competencies. Jade, you remain calm in many crises. How do you compose yourself, and then how do you move forward?
I think I'm only human. And I think I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a superhuman and this is what I do, and crises aren't so easy to deal with, because they're not. And every crisis is different. So what might work for me might not work for someone else, or any of our listeners out there. But remaining calm is, again, flight or fight mode, and actually taking the time to think about the situation and gather all the facts, and walking away and taking a deep breath and coming back to it. That day, another day, talking to the people, talking to your support network, and your biggest stakeholders. And I think one of those things might be, you might have to make a huge important business decision, but you need everyone there to make that decision. You need to talk to your husband or your wife about that decision that you need to make. But remaining calm has to consist of walking away and taking a deep breath, and not reacting negatively in the face of difficulty.
And really analysing that situation as well. So many people can just fly off the handle. It's a lot easier to do that. Yeah.
Most people do, and that shows your weakness. That's a huge weakness, and it's our natural human instinct to do that.
Yep.
And I think we need to walk away, gather the facts, and think about a response, or think about the decision that needs to be made.
I used to do that. I used to just break stuff. You know what I mean? And it was really bad. Like I come from the nightclub industry, so when someone stuffs up, that's what basically how we used to deal with situations, right? But now, in a more professional environment, and trying to move forward in the business world, you have to conduct yourself in a certain way. But what you need to do is you just need to remove emotions from important decisions, and like you said, Mark, step away from it, deconstruct the whole situation, right? And if you have to, start writing notes down and go, okay, what are the pros, what are the cons, and really educate yourself on a better decision by doing it that way, and making those important decisions, so you don't get all sort of flustered and and all of a sudden you make this decision that you will probably regret. Right? So I always say, like, if you hit those situations where you can't, you're unsure of your emotions, and you can't control yourself, like Jade said, just walk away from it and revisit it. Give it 24 hours and revisit it. Like, unless it's an absolute emergency, but most of the time it's not.
No.
You can walk away, sleep on it, consult with your loved ones or your business partners or your staff or whoever, and then come and revisit it. And what will happen is you'll make a more educated decision. So, then you will be able to identify that opportunity that can come out of the back of it. So remaining composed and removing that emotion is highly critical. I always relate it to something like boxing, for example. Now, when you box, you can't allow yourself to get emotional. So let's say you get, cheap shotted in below the belt, right? You have to remain composed. Otherwise, if you start blowing up and start flapping your hands everywhere and start pulling off some bad moves, that creates opportunity for the opponent to hit you when you're at your weakest. Sorry.
Of course, yeah.
But if you remain calm and composed and know in your head that you're still counting your punches and you know what your next move is, then you're always going to be able to keep your defense up. And also, where a weakness opens up with the opponent, you'll be able to take that opportunity and strike. So it's the same in business. Stay composed, hold your cards close to you, and then when a weakness opens on the other end, that's when you can strike. But you can't do that while blowing up and flying off your handle, and because you're not thinking straight.
That's right, which also kind of ties in with point number 2, which is look for the hidden opportunity in the worst of adversities. So like you were just saying, in the boxing ring, if you're getting smashed up, rather than flapping around or cheap shot, whatever it may be, keep going.
And in the business world,
find the gap.
And in the business world, what people don't know, like for example in property, when the market crashes, that or corrects, for example, because everyone's scared of this, the interest rates going up and property prices, coming down or correcting or leveling out or whatever it is, right? But that's where the opportunity is.
That's right.
That's where all the millionaires strike. And I'm saving all of my money now to strike at that time. So when it actually corrects, because that's when the deals pop up.
Yep.
That's when we can get the $1 million place that it is $1 million now. We can get it for $750,000 when it corrects. That's when you get the deals. That's when you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, right? So that is a crisis, right? A market correction or a market crash in the property world, that's a crisis. But that's where all the millionaires and billionaires make their money. Of course,
yeah, exactly right. Jade, another question for you. To touch on point number 4. The clouds will lift. Keep working on your core competencies. This is something you are a big believer of, and I know for a fact.
So being optimistic.
Yep, yeah, pretty much.
I've always been an optimist ever since I was a young girl, and I think it's what gets you through, really, isn't it? But you can't just be completely optimistic and not,
look at reality.
tap into reality and be realistic. What are all the facts, and what can I do to help the situation? Where's my value add in this crisis? Not getting so romantic about the detail and we should have done this, we should have done that. What if it was like this? What if it was like that? Well, it's not. So
exactly,
this is what we have to do. There are better days will come. And we just keep doubling down on our strengths and focus on what value we can add to this situation.
Yep.
You have to look after yourself at the end of the day and your loved ones. And I think if you're too hard on yourself, I think that's where you start to come unstuck and lose focus and track of the bigger picture.
I think you've got to be solutions focused. And what a lot of people don't do is that, like Jade said, they sit there and they dwell on the mistake or the crisis and they go, oh, we should have done this or we should have done that, or they point the finger of blame. Blame's a massive one. And blame has a close correlation with a negative mindset, right? And a negative mindset gets you nowhere. Because at the end of the day, you can blame, you can be negative, you can dwell all you want, but what does that do to the situation, right? You can't turn back time. There's no such thing as a time machine, right? If there was a time machine, then blame and, pointing the finger and all of that sort of stuff and dwelling, it would actually hold some sort of value, because you could turn back time and then go and change whatever happened and then, carry on forward. But that's not the case, right? So it's about being solutions focused. Being solutions focused will help you keep a positive mindset, because all you're doing is focusing on solving the problem. And even no matter how long it takes, if you always focus on the solution, what will happen is that you'll consistently be positive. Because you're always working towards something, right? You're never ever, like Jade said, getting romantic about the past and going, oh, it should have been this or it should have been that. And that's what most people do, right? Most people point the finger at the easiest target, so that because it's the easiest thing to do. It requires no effort. To point the finger and blame requires no effort at all. But to come up with a solution and execute that solution, that requires hard work. And that's what separates the losers from the winners.
And it's funny because you keep jumping ahead of me. You actually got to point number 3, which is the last one I was going to finish off on, and then discuss about how you could give tips to the listeners. No, that's fine. You're mentally ahead of the game. It's good. Leaders jump into the hot spot when things around them are struggling.
Of course.
So, this applies to both of you guys. You guys are very strong in that regard where, you may not even let it get to a position of struggle, but you will always take the driver's seat as leading the team, not pointing the finger and saying do this, do that.
Stepping up to the plate.
Stepping up to the plate and executing.
Stepping up to the plate and owning it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you don't own it, then you're not a boss. Yeah. Everyone walks around and says, "Oh, boss this, boss that," and they think they're all that. You know what I mean? But when a problem arises, what do? They cower away in the corner and go, "Oh, he did it. Oh, it's his fault." No, that's not the case, right? Yeah. It's my fault. I take responsibility. I acknowledge that.
It's my team.
Yeah, it's my team, and I'm going to step up to the plate. And that's how leaders are born, right? So even if for those listeners,
your team.
Those listeners out there that are listening, like if they might not be in managerial positions, they might just be employees or whatever. But if you continuously step up to the plate and take ownership and take responsibility in times of stress and struggle, you will eventually become the business owner. Because anyone that does that on my team, they become my business partner. 100%. If they take ownership and they really, really embrace struggle and they're there for the hard times just as well as the good times, they will become my business partner. I will give them everything. I'll provide all the opportunity to those people. But the people who cower away in the corner, Bundy on, wait for the clock to hit 5 p.m. and then leave, and because they just want to get paid their hourly rate. Those people eventually get fired.
Yeah, they do.
They might not get fired straight away, but I will be able to pick them out and go, you know what? Like, what value are you bringing to the table? You need to exceed your hourly rate.
Yep.
You need to exceed that value. And then you will get promoted. Then you'll be provided opportunity, right? But that's how the world operates.
Oh.
Right? If you just sit there and avoid crisis, or when a crisis occurs, you don't do anything, right? You just want to piggyback off everyone else. I'm sorry, but when times are good, there's the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It would be amazing to see if the world didn't have money, for example, and how people would work with each other based on value. So I'll cut your lawn, for example, and you can fix my sink. You know what I mean?
And that's the way it's got to be. That's the way it's got to be, like a transaction, right?
Yeah.
If you're an employee and you're listening to this, you are also in the business of yourself.
Exactly.
Doing a transaction. You're providing value, right? You're not just there just to look pretty, right? You've got to do something. And you know what? There's so many people, probably the majority of the population, that think like that, where they don't have to do anything. They just got to show up.
Yep.
They just got to show up, and they think that, okay, well, I'll get my pay packet and I can go home. But unfortunately, you can do that, but only for so long. That's a short-term fix. But if you want to grow, and you want to be the best at what you do, that's not going to cut it. Unfortunately, fortunately, we live in the best country in the world. So you can pretty much do nothing in this country and get ahead. You know what I mean? You can make a good living. Mate, the guys who clean the toilets here in this office building get paid $30 an hour, $35 an hour. Do you know how good that money is?
Very
good. Back home from my country, Malaysia, if you're getting $35 an hour, you're a lawyer. You know what I mean? So, this is the best country in the world to just turn up to work and do nothing. Because there are so many companies, especially the big corporations, where you can do that. But do you grow and excel and become a millionaire or a billionaire, right? Do you grow and excel and become an expert in your specific industry? I don't think so.
No.
Because you have to go above and beyond. I'm going above and beyond every single day. The people who work for me in my businesses go above and beyond every single day to become an expert in their field.
Yeah.
And they get promoted.
Well, we're going to wrap it up shortly, but before we do, as we always do, we give a little bit of advice to the listeners out there. I'll start again with you, Jade. What can you tell these listeners out there that are, we're about to leave for this week? How can they, if they're going through a crisis right now, whether it be a personal crisis, family members sick or something like that, how can they at least stay positive until they find that opportunity kind of crosses their path and then they can strike it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll talk about it in a business sense.
Yep.
I think it's taking a step back from what I said from the very beginning, taking a step back, taking a deep breath, and really analysing, gathering all the facts that you need to make a decision of what opportunities present in the face of this crisis or adversity. It's really important not to get romantic with with all the detail and get caught up and get really emotional about things that you can't change or can't control, and focus on the things that you can control and those areas where you can add actual value. Double down on your strengths, so your core competencies. What are you good at? Focus on that. Things that you're not so good at, probably not a good time to focus on those